Thanks for tuning in to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. Here you'll find tips, insight, and information to help your music and your ministry succeed. Whether you're a singer, a musician, or a songwriter, we want to help you where you are, but we also want to help you get to where you want to go. We believe that our talents are God's gift to us, but what we do with those are our gift back to God. Yesterday's information is important, but what we can learn today will make this the best day yet. Hey, everybody. So we're talking kind of a really cool subject tonight, and I've got a great guest with us to talk about this subject. We're talking the power of music, and I've been in this my entire life, but there was a time back in, I believe it was 2019. It was 2019. I saw firsthand the power of music, and my guest is going to be able to shed some light on that because of his ministry and his unique call that God's placed on his life and that he's answered. And he on a daily basis gets to see this power of music. And I happened to be on a trip with him when I got to experience this. And so just a cool thing. I mean, music truly, truly, truly is a universal language. And I have 40 private students in the Atlanta area. And I picked up a new student last week, and it took my official count. I've been in Atlanta 17 and a half years. I have taught 29 different nationalities living here, and Gwinnett County, Georgia is very diverse. They call it a mini Ellis Island. And at two church academies, I have been introduced to 29 different cultures, different nationalities. And that shows me there how universal of a language that music truly is and how powerful it is. And then you take that simple fact, and then you couple it with what is absolutely lyrically the greatest story ever told in us sharing the gospel. We put the gospel message against music, and amazing what can happen. Absolutely amazing what can happen. So it's time to introduce our guest, man. This is a longtime friend of mine. We have we have done life together. We've done ministry together. I've had him in the studio. I've been able to produce albums and that he's been part of, from groups to solo projects, and just a super, super, super great close friend of mine, and honored to have you with us. I am getting ready to introduce Jim Quales. Jim, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to share and share in this subject tonight, the power of music. So how's Jim doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks. It's an honor for me to be here, even if it is vacation for me here in Outer Banks, North Carolina.
I was just getting ready to give it a plug. Man, talking offline before we started, I'm like, what going over and beyond the call of duty. It talks in the Bible, if you're asked to go a mile, you go two. You're going 2 miles tonight because you're taking time off during your vacation. You're in the Outer Banks. How is it there?
Oh, it's been on the chilly side, but we love it. This is it's such a cool place to be. It seems like time slows down when you get on these little islands out here. So we love it.
Well, man, Jim, thanks for your time. I appreciate you, your friendship, and your heart for ministry. We're talking the power of music, and the story that I alluded to was, you had asked me back in, I think, the beginning of 2019. You were coming through with the group at that time, 401 Quartet, and you were heading to Florida for a 10-day trip. And you called and said, hey, man, would you get on the bus and ride with us and play piano for us? We're going to Florida for 10 days. And, man, it's January. I live in Georgia, but it's North Georgia. It's chilly here. And so I'm like, absolutely. Chance to go to Florida for 10 days and relax and get some warm weather. Jim, I'll never do that again. As long as you have your same booking agent, I will never do that again. We did like 27,000 gigs. And no, seriously, it was like 27 shows in 10 days. And I've never worked so hard in my entire life. She keeps you busy, busy, busy. But here was the thing. I got with you, and I want you here in a second to go in and share your ministry and what it is that God's called you to do, because it was on that trip, being able to be literally a guest with your ministry in a memory care unit, that I truly got to see how powerful music is. So I'm going to come back to that story a little later, but if you would share with everybody why what you do is so unique because of what God's called you to do.
To me, it's just it's definitely a calling and a passion of mine, and even the passion is getting so great that I just love when I can mentor other people to do it, and that's going to senior facilities all over the country, whether that be a senior ministry in a church, assisted living, memory care unit, um, independent living villages, just singing to seniors, wherever that might be, senior centers. And I love doing it. I feel like I got into it for the wrong reason, though. Even back when you were with us, when we had the quartet, we were doing senior shows,
Right.
and I basically call them senior shows because they're bringing you in to do entertainment.
Right.
That's just bottom line. They're bringing you in to do entertainment. But I kind of felt like we got into it just kind of to get gas money. Now that's kind of a wrong, backwards idea to get into it, but that's the way I think we did it. And it really did. It provided us time to get gas money, but I still within my guys that we went to do this with quality. And you can testify this. After every time we sang, we definitely took time to greet each person there,
Right.
Because I felt like that was really important. So it was kind of a backwards way to get into it. And then when God saw fit for us to bring the quartet off the road, right before COVID, the fall before COVID, I really thought my singing days were done. In fact, the very next weekend, Nicole said, you got a date on the book and you need to do it. I said, well, it's a quartet date. You're still doing it. I said, I don't want to do it. She said, you are. I did it. It was a church date. And then we still had some dates on the books for some senior stuff, because I was doing some during the week and then going out with the quartet on the weekend. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call from a friend out in Iowa, a worship pastor out there. And she said, hey, would you be willing to come out here and do some senior shows out here? I hear you're doing them. And I said, well, if you'll book up the week, we'll do it. And sure enough, she did. And that's morphed in from about once a quarter to now Nicole's got me going out there about every other month.
Right.
And I'll spend between 4 and 5 days out there doing about anywhere from 18 to 20 shows in those 5 days. So
wow, unbelievable.
It's crazy, but it's what I love.
Right.
Even on our vacation today, we went north and did 2 senior shows a day here in Outer Banks, and I just love doing it. And I mean, you go in with the mindset that you're going to go create smiles, and that's kind of my aim and my goal, is create smiles and share Jesus and reflect Jesus' love. But man, I walk away more blessed than I think they do in their blessings. And talk about power of the music. I mean, I can't share with you because Nicole videoed it tonight, but I can't even remember what song it was. And I know that, you know this, I do a lot of secular songs along with my gospel songs, but it's really touching to me. And I do a slow song, and you have a couple to get up a slow dance. I think that's the coolest. I mean, I really do, man. I think it takes them back. It takes them back to a time in their memory that it touched them. And just, like in a service, I mean, we could be in a good revival service or a concert, and a song can touch something in our memory bank and take us back to the time where we gave our life to Jesus, or a time where we were going through a hard time in our life, and a song ministered to us, and it can pull us right into that moment. So there is great power in music, and I see it every day in what I do with my seniors. So they're my peeps. I love what I do.
I love your terminology there. I love how you affectionately call them, your peeps. Every time I hear you use that term, I know that you're saying that out of love, because, and thank you for your transparency. I've been in situations where maybe what got me into a position wasn't necessarily what was going to keep me in that position. And it took me to the story of Esther and how the heart of the king was touched and changed. So I believe in ministry, man, we can be doing things maybe for the wrong motives, but God has a way of changing things a little bit. Now, we could go all over the place. I want to come back to this in a minute, but I do want to stay on topic of the power of music and share that story that happened on that trip that I was with you. But I want to circle back around to that dangerous word, entertainment versus ministry. We'll come back to that one in a minute. But
Okay.
this one particular day, I don't remember how far into the trip that this was happening, but we went to a facility and we unloaded and we got done relatively quickly. And we were doing what every gospel group does when you've got 45 minutes to kill before the service begins. We were in 4 different corners of the room, all on our cell phones, doing the cell phone thing, right? And a gentleman came in and he sat down. And I think you were back there where he came in and he sat down on a couch. He sat there for maybe a minute or two. And he jumped up and said, I got to go to my room. And he got his walker and he worked his way out of the room. And we kind of all looked at each other, and probably caught me more off guard than it did you all, because you probably have been in those situations, but it struck me as odd. And he left. He came back a few minutes later, 10 minutes later, and did the same thing. He sat down for a few minutes. And at this point, it's starting to click that he's having some issues. Dementia or something has got a hold of him, and more than likely the reason he's in this facility. So this kept happening. He kept coming in the room. He'd sit down for a minute or two and would jump up and say, I got to go to my room. And he'd get on that walker and scoot out of that rec room or that we were in. And man, this happened like 4 or 5 times. And finally, when he showed back up, the only available seat was right in the middle on the front row. And he sat down and we started. And we'll talk again about this in a minute, the uniqueness of how you schedule your set list. But so we did the opening stuff. And then when we moved into the Sunday school songs, and I'll let you talk about that in a minute, but it caught my eye. He stood up, he was raising his hands, he was crying, he was singing along. And this gentleman for an hour was nowhere near that room. And then all of a sudden something clicked. And what God did that day was that was when I truly on that trip saw how powerful music was, because you said it a while ago. It allowed him to connect with something in his mind. And I know Mary Ann, that's on our staff, she's so good in this because of her ministry, the Veranda there in Nashville. I saw that day how he connected through those songs. Okay, so share now how you get to that point of the program, because Jim, it's ingenious. And this is where, man, I'll debate you all day long on, I think what we do in a concert situation, there has to be a level of entertainment. There has to be. That's what allows us to keep someone's attention. And when we can tip the scales and balance ministry with entertainment, when we can present a professional product to somebody that is enjoyable to listen to, and we get them softened up to a point that then we can bring the ministry angle into things, unbelievable. So talk about that a little bit, the whole ministry entertainment thing.
My whole concept, the whole set list idea is definitely breaking down the walls so you can create the moment. That's basically what it amounts to. Now, I mean, a lot of my concerts or shows, I might start totally different. Like, for instance, today, one show was, I haven't been there for so long that I started out with Americana music.
What does that mean?
So that Americana music is patriotic stuff or songs that we grew up on that would be kind of standard.
Okay.
I mean, like so that's when I started with was Jim Reeves, Put Your Sweet Lips a Little Closer to the Phone. Now that understanding the fact that worked tonight because they brought me in at the close of their eating dinner. So I couldn't really get them. Lately, I've been opening with to get the people involved because if they get just done eating or it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, senior people like taking naps. So it's not unusual for me to open up with I Walk the Line, Johnny Cash, and getting them to clap and stomp their feet and just to get them awake and in the room with you. So you're always mindful of that. Tonight I started with that and then went straight to Star Spangled Banner. My Country 'Tis of Thee. I mean, those songs, 40-Hour Week by Alabama, which is a great tune. I mean, most of these people grew up working and they know about work. And then you go into Sweet Caroline in with God Bless USA, God Bless America. And then it's a great little package to put together. And then you can segue from that, especially if, and I have found very well, segueing from either some old country or 80s country into patriotic, segue really well into church music or gospel music. And you always got to find those really unique segue songs to do that, which is and it's really cool to do. It's amazing because at this point, the walls have been broken down.
Right.
And then when you get to songs like Amazing Grace or I Come to the Garden Alone, or if you want to go up tempo and he's got the whole world in his hands. I mean, they're right with you. It is amazing. They're right with you. And honestly, Rob, it's been really cool because, you cut the track for me on my little Sunday school medley. Well, lately I set it up sort of like this. I'll say, now, how many of you ever went to Vacation Bible School? And I'm telling you everywhere, talking North Carolina, Iowa, Ohio, Michigan. You ask that question, any of those senior homes, you got hands that are raised. It is amazing the hands I see raised. Right. Then I'll say, well, how many ever worked at a Vacation Bible School? And it's amazing to see the hands pop up on that. And then I'll say, okay, now here we go. We're going back to 1975 Vacation Bible School. And then I hit the track. And I mean, they're right there. All you're doing is you've broken down those walls with the songs that make them not feel intimidated or you're going to be churchy or preachy at them. Right. And now you're creating a moment. And then you can bring them in there. A lot of people have known that we've lost several loved ones over the last couple of months.
Right.
For the last, a month ago, 2 months ago, I would always put in Because He Lives. And I would share with my dear peeps our story. And man, you could see the tears flow. And I can tell you afterward, the power of that song and them hearing my little testimony about losing my dad and Nicole's mom and having a new grandchild coming in the mix. I can't tell you how many people after those kind of shows would come up to me afterward and say, man, we've been there. We've done that. So sorry for your family, and see the tears flow. It's crazy. And that is the power of music. The power of music right there.
You said a couple things. And so, full disclaimer here, all kinds of different people listen to these podcasts. Man, I'm not saying if you're at First Baptist of Whereverville Sunday morning, probably don't start with 40-hour week. Okay.
Right.
But I'll say this. You said two key things, and you've said them both multiple times, breaking down the walls. And at the end of the day, in your unique situation, you just shared how you're breaking down those walls. Now, don't do this at First Baptist of Whereverville Sunday morning, but think about it. How many times with groups that don't have a call like you, they're doing churches, but when summer rolls around, man, we get fairs, we get festivals, we get flea market opportunities. Man, what a perfect idea to break down those walls, to program a few Americana things, to have some things that, you know what, if you come out and you start with something like that, you're probably going to get more people to stop and listen to you than if you're giving them, Amazing Grace and Victory in Jesus.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna bring a lyric up real quick because I can sing it, but to read it off of my head, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. You cut a track for me on this one, and it's a Rodney Atkins tune. Um, just watching you.
Right.
You know the tune I'm talking about.
His little,
And that, yeah, it's about a little son watching his dad, and just the gist of it is, the little son spills a drink and his fries in his lap in a car seat, and lets out a 4-letter word that's not nice. and his dad's asking, well, where in the world did you hear this from? And the son flips it back on him. Dad, I just been watching you.
Wow.
And then the second verse, the dad goes, oh my goodness, my son's watching me. So he goes to God and says, help me. I'm messing up here.
Right.
And then that night, he puts the son down to go to bed that night, and his son gets out of bed, gets down on his hands and knees and talks to God. And he says, where in the world did you learn this? And he says, Dad, I've been watching you. Yeah. And maybe you talk about a segue song for going for and it's a country tune. It really is. You could sing, but the words of that song preach a powerful message. And I love to, after that song, I'll say, hey, they're watching us, aren't they? I mean, they might not listen to every one of our advices that we try to give our kids or our grandkids, but they're definitely watching everything you say, everything you do. And it creates that moment, and it segues over to right after that. A lot of times I'll go right from that to Amazing Grace.
Right.
And they're right there because they've already caught that they're watching you. So
two things on the power of music with what you just said. When I was cutting that track for you, do you know where my mind went? I don't do my studio. I don't do CNS without having watched my dad. And, so music it takes our mind to a place. I am not who I am today without having someone model and project something to follow and to give me such a godly example. And the word that we keep coming back to, and we did a whole podcast episode on this. If you've not heard it, go back and find it. The power of connecting, connect. When you said breaking down the walls, and then I think at one point you literally connected the two. Breaking down the walls allows us to connect with the listener. And once we connect with them, and I've been there to see it, man, you're literally, by doing it this way, Jim, you're spoon feeding them the gospel instead of shoving it down their throat. Thank you for what you do, because I know that our seniors are neglected. They're neglected. And if you can go in there for an hour and give them entertainment for 30 minutes to put a smile on their face, and then start ministering to them because you've tore down the walls, you've connected with them, you literally are probably the only Jesus that some of them people in Elizabeth City may see this week. You're it. You're it. So thank you for answering that call. That trip I went on with you allowed me to do something really cool. About 3 or 4 months after that, I was in Virginia on a trip, and I was through my dad's neck of the woods. And my grandfather was in a nursing home there in Pulaski, Virginia. And I reached out to them and said, hey, could I come in and spend some time with your residents? And it felt good for me because growing up, my dad would take our youth choir to nursing homes in Ohio there. And come to find out years later, he told me he was doing that. He believed in the scripture, given it shall be given, that if we would go do that in Southern Ohio, then God would take people and press on their hearts to go in that facility in Virginia where my dad or my grandfather was, my dad's dad, and minister to my grandfather. So we can't outgive God. We can't.
just real quick challenge for anybody who might be listening tonight or watch whenever. If you're in a gospel music ministry, your ministry doesn't have to look like mine. You might feel like you can't do a secular song ever.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
These dear people deserve your best. And man, my challenge to you is if you're in gospel music, at least hit one senior play a month. I get great joy out of doing what I do, but it's even more fun to me to see other people that are willing to step up and say, hey, I can do at least one. And it's worth it. I mean, it really is. And if you have any, questions about senior doing what I do, reach out. Definitely would help any way I can.
So how can they reach you?
They can reach me online. My website is jimquales.com, QUALES.com. They can hit me up. My phone number, 231-250-0134. Rob, you can put that up on a link if you want at some point. Anyway, I can be a help or a service. I can't do all these seniors, and they're popping up everywhere.
Right.
The baby boomers are all in these places, and they're everywhere.
Right.
And Nicole, we about it. And she's pretty much got my 2023 counter almost full. We're up to about 340, I think, right now. And it's crazy. But it's what I love. And so when you love something, it's easy to do. It really is. But my challenge is, hey, at least do one. Get out there and you can get paid to do it. It's not like you won't get paid, or you can do it as just a service to those dear people, right. But they deserve your best. So that's my challenge.
Well, man, Jim, thanks for your time. I appreciate you, your friendship, and your heart for ministry, and keep doing what you're doing and ministering to those peeps. All right.
Yes.
All right, buddy. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name the Charles Novell School of Music. And for more information on CNS and our upcoming events, like our online school, our weekend regional sessions, our creative coaching, and our pastor's retreat, you can visit us at our website at www.cnsmusic.com. As you've listened to this episode, we hope that you've gained some information that you can apply to your music and to your ministry to make today the best day yet.